So this is the 630 Rickshaw. It's a different E-Trike approach with this massive rear passenger bench seat. Essentially, it's a dedicated multi-passenger e-bike. So with this unique design comes some good and some not so good. So stick around and let's take a ride on the 630 Rickshaw. Hey, welcome back friends. I'm Mike with Electric Bike Report, and before we jump into the review, it goes a long way for us when you guys like these videos and subscribe to the channel. That 1 second of appreciation on your part allows us to keep testing e-bikes and hopefully helping you know more about your next e-bike before you drop your hard-earned cash on it. And with that, let's jump into the specs of the Rickshaw. So you don't need to be an e-bike expert to see that the Rickshaw is already off to a different start than we normally see. This giant passenger seat and cargo box below it has the ability to carry up to a combined 300 pounds. Add that up with a 200-pound rider up front, and you have a dedicated multi-passenger E-Trike that can carry a total payload capacity of a whopping 500 pounds. So yeah, 630 went big with the Rickshaw. And the Rickshaw just brings on a world of new possibilities for its owners. Need to take the kids to school and want them buckled up for the ride? There's a seatbelt for the passengers. Have a disabled spouse or a child with special needs? Well, now you can ride together. Or maybe you just want your furry friend to lounge out while you do all the work. Again, the Rickshaw answers the call. Also, this thing has business potential. It could be a pedicab for hire, or slap on a couple coolers and sell snacks and cold drinks in crowded areas. I mean, it's just a really interesting design that we think is a blank canvas for all types of uses, and probably plenty more that we haven't even thought of. In fact, let me know down below in the comments how you would use the Rickshaw. We usually see some great ideas coming from the comment section. Also, check out the staggered wheel design. Up front, you have a 24-inch tire, and the two tires in the rear are smaller 20-inch tires. While that combination might seem like an odd choice, we found it to give the rear end of the trike a lower center of gravity, and overall it helps it feel stable. And finally, the 750-watt motor is in the front wheel hub, and we definitely noticed plenty of torque here as the motor feels confident in its ability to carry a heavier payload. Okay, with those highlights out of the way, let's do a quick rundown of the Rickshaw's full specs. Starting at the top here in the cockpit, you have a cruiser-style handlebar with a brown leather accented grip. And on the left side, there's a small pedal assist controller buttons, an electric horn button, and a brake lever that has a locking option to act as your parking brake. Over on the right is a push throttle Shimano index shifter and another brake lever for locking the rear wheels in place. And finally, in the center is the duotone LCD display with your riding data, things like your current speed, the odometer, and your current PAS level. Moving back to the rider seat, it's a wide brown leather seat that also has a suspension seat post. Behind the rider is that big bench seat, which measures about 26 inches wide, 13 inches deep. Down below that bench seat is the frame-integrated metal cargo box that has internal dimensions of about 20 inches wide, a depth of 14.5 inches, with an internal height of 9 inches. Also, there is a small foot platform here for your passengers to set their feet. Now there's only one frame size and color choice, which is the navy color we have here. But according to 630, this bike fits riders between a generous range of 4'11" and 6'4". The bike has a front headlight and taillight that also acts as a brake light. The brakes on the Rickshaw are Tektro mechanical disc brakes with 160 rotors and a 2-piston caliper. Up front, there's a steel coil suspension fork with a lockout option. The front tire is a Kenda tire with a hybrid tread pattern, and on the rear, the two smaller tires are also Kendas, but with a more aggressive knobby tread pattern. When it comes to pedal power, you have a 44-tooth chainring up front along with a 7-speed Shimano Tourney drivetrain. And finally, at the heart of the Rickshaw is a pretty big 48-volt, 21-amp-hour battery that carries 1,008 watt-hours of power. All right, with those specs out of the way, let's jump into our testing data of the 630 Rickshaw. So if you've seen our brake test before, this one's going to be just a little bit different. We had our dedicated tester, Griffin, bring the Rickshaw up to 16 miles an hour, hit the brakes, and then we measured the distance it took to stop, and we did it 3 times for an average. Now with the Rickshaw, we got a score of 19 feet 9 inches. So was that good or a bad score? Well, it's a little tough to answer. You see, typically we like to stay analytical here, but without any close comparisons, it's difficult to definitively say how it did and a bit tougher to say if it can or even should be improved. So I'll tell you what I know and then just tell you what our collective thoughts are. Most e-bikes stop between 21 and 22 feet from that 20 mile an hour mark. On average, E-Trikes traveling between 14 and 16 miles an hour stop closer to 13.5 feet. And the weights can all vary, but the majority of products we've tested before are somewhere between 60 and 80 pounds with a few outliers on either side. Now the Rickshaw stopped in 19 feet 9 inches from about 16 miles an hour, but it weighs nearly 160 pounds, so our test result may be bad for a trike, but great in the larger landscape, especially for something of this size. I feel like I'm back in high school debate class. I'm prepared to make the case for this being good or needing improvement. Instead, I'll just tell you what my gut tells me. I think the braking could be improved. Either larger rotors and calipers or figuring out a hydraulic system that works with both rear wheels would give us a bit more confidence. Also, it's worth noting the test was done without additional riders in the back, and in theory, the more weight added to the bike, the longer it takes to stop, so I feel like it needs to be improved even if we don't have similar test results to point to and say, see what I mean? So bottom line, as it stands now, if you're keeping speeds low, you'll be fine. Just remember, the faster you go and the more you have back here, the more distance it takes to stop the bike. All right, let's head outside and see how the Rickshaw did on our speed test. All right, we're out here on the Sixthreezero Rickshaw and it's time for a speed test. So there's 5 levels of pedal assist. I'm currently using none at level 0, and my natural pedal cadence is about 7 miles an hour on the display and almost 8 on my phone. So let's go to level 1. And I can feel that just a bit, a little more ease in the pedaling there. And just so you know, there is a discrepancy between my phone and the LCD display. I'm gonna read what the bike says, and you can reference the phone if it helps. But at level 1, we're about 8.8, 8.7. Let's go to level 2. And I will be shifting along the way to keep providing feedback to the pedals. But at level 2, we are at 9.8. And also, a good point to mention here is the bike is supposed to be a top speed of about 16 miles an hour. However, I've seen the bike already kind of cruise past that, so we'll see what we get on this test. So 10.1 was the best I saw in PAS2. Let's go to PAS level 3. And at level 3, I have, so far, looks like we're approaching 12 miles an hour on the display. 12.1. Yeah, 12.1 was it. So let's go to level 4. And now we are up over 13. 13.5 I saw, 13.4. So let's go to, 13.6. Let's go to level 5. And now we are in the highest pedal assist, and we're also in the highest gear of the bike. And we are up over 16 miles an hour, 16.2. And 16.3 I saw at peak at. So, there you go, all 5 levels of pedal assist, pretty much right in line with the manufacturer's 16 mile an hour limit. And overall, it felt pretty even all the way through. All right, out here on the Sixthreezero Rickshaw, and let's do a throttle test to its max speed. Now, they say this max speed is 16 miles an hour, so I'm gonna call it at 16 miles an hour. However, the bike has been going over 16, sometimes up to 17, 18. But for the purposes of this test, we're just gonna go to 16 miles an hour. So, on your mark, get set, go. Now, there is a discrepancy between my display and my phone's app, so I'm gonna go with the display for purposes of a test. But we're at 12, 14, 15, 16, there it is. It's actually, it feels like it's got some pretty decent torque. I mean, that was a pretty fast get up and go for such a large trike. I would imagine the torque rating is pretty significant on this motor, but I'll have to check that, and I'll mention that when we get back inside. Okay, so as you saw, starting off in pedal assist 1, the bike felt a slight nudge to the pedals and the speed crept up to 9.1 miles an hour. Moving up to pedal assist 2, the bike saw a small boost and leveled out at 10.2. In pedal assist 3, I felt the motor give me a little more assistance and the speed settled in at about 12.1 miles an hour. And in level 4, the bike reached a speed of 13.6, and finally in PAS5, the highest pedal assist level, the Rickshaw topped out at 16.3 miles an hour. So the motor delivered its power smoothly and consistently, which is always nice, especially on a trike where relaxing rides are its specialty. We did notice a bump in the torque, which is likely designed to accommodate the Rickshaw's passenger payload capacity. Now, Sixthreezero specifies a 16-mile-an-hour top speed on the Rickshaw, but our testing consistently reached speeds exceeding 20 miles an hour when on throttle only. So overall, the PAS speeds are nice and distinct, but we think the throttle speed could be adjusted down to keep the priority on control and handling, and that's what a trike needs, not top-end speed. All right, now when it comes to range, the Rickshaw's got a 48-volt battery with 1,008 watt-hours. Now we didn't expect the longest range numbers on the market, but it did surprise me with some pretty decent results. In the first test at PAS1, we covered 48.67 miles, spanning over 5 hours and tackling 978 feet of elevation with an average speed of 9 miles an hour. This means a long day of leisurely cruising is absolutely possible with the Rickshaw. But on the other hand, when it came to the max range test on PAS level 5, we traveled 11.43 miles in only 44 minutes, climbing 479 feet of elevation at an average speed of 15.6. So obviously that's not a ton of mileage, but that's what you get when going full motor power on a pretty heavy rig. Overall, the Rickshaw might not win any marathon awards, but it is a reliable workhorse for specific uses. So if you're planning family outings, trips around town, or even a small pedicab service in a relatively flat area, this E-Trike's range will likely keep up just fine if kept in mid to low power levels. However, if you're dreaming of all-day hill climbing adventures, you might want to explore other options with a more powerful motor and lighter weight. And also just keep in mind that we had no weight or passengers in the rear for the range test, so for those of you who plan on using this with passengers, it's very likely that you'll see lower range numbers. All right, let's head outside one more time with our hill tester Justin, who took the Sixthreezero Rickshaw up our local hellhole hill test. It's 1/3 of a mile with an average grade of 12%. A hill climb that's tough for any rider, let alone this massive E-Trike.
Okay, so here we are on the Sixthreezero Rickshaw, which is a surprisingly fun bike. just saying. I'm getting some fun looks out here, but it's a cool bike. So we're doing the throttle test on it, going up hellhole. I did not have high expectations. It's a lot of bike for throttle only up this thing. Down to 4 miles per hour. I don't have to balance because it's basically a trike with 2 seats on the back. We're gonna see if it gets up down to 2.4, 2.2. See if it's got enough of that kind of low end torque just to keep it going slow and steady, kind of Thomas the Train style. So yeah, we're sticking right here, 2.2. Oh, I'm hearing it a little bit. Oh, 1.9. See, it's giving over 1,000 watts from the motor, 1.4. This might not make it up. Oh, we're down to 0 on the monitor, but it's still climbing. Oh. I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to call it, but technically I'm still moving. Oh, and I spoke too soon. Now it's shaking, so I'm going to call it. Yep. Okay. So didn't quite make it up on throttle. We'll turn around and we'll see how it does on the pedal test. Okay, we're back out now on the Rickshaw with the pedal test, and we'll see how it does. Again, PAS5. I'm not going to push very hard because I don't think, I mean, you're not going to want to have to get up on the saddle and try to crank this thing up a hill. So far it's doing fairly good though. You know, I'm not pushing hard at all. Down into 4th gear. Going about 6.4 miles an hour. Going to shift down to 3rd here. 4.7. Did end up shifting down to the 2nd gear. Was catching a little bit on 3rd. 2nd feels good though. Motor, you can definitely hear this thing. I'll kind of be quiet here through this next section so you can hear what the motor sounds like. So I don't know if you could tell, but kind of when I'm going up the hill, it's a little louder, a little lower on the kind of the frequency. And as they pick up, the frequency picks up, the noise gets lower. See how it does through this last steep section here. Staying in second. I'm gonna put it in the first. And again, I'm just lightly pedaling. I'm really letting the motor do most of this work. Got down to about 4.5 miles per hour, but yeah, it's gonna make it up. Not gonna be a challenge, at least without weight on the back. On hellhole, again, I'm not pushing hard, just letting the bike do most of the work. I've stayed in kind of either first, second, or third here most of the time. We'll see how it does. Kind of a busier day here, but I'm not running into anybody, and I didn't have to slow down, so this will be a valid test. We'll kind of take it to the tape, and I think it did a little better than I expected. So yeah, you can make it up hellhole.
All right, so as you saw, when it came to throttle-only attempts with no pedaling at all, the Rickshaw put up a good effort for a while, but the hill proved too steep, and this was expected given the design. Now in the second round, Justin cranks up the pedal assist to level 5, adding some extra muscle to the climb. And this time, the Rickshaw steadily made its way up hellhole, clocking in at 2 minutes, 12 seconds with a decent 8.2 mile/hour average speed. Not lightning fast, but again, this three-wheeler prioritizes other strengths. I mean, let's be realistic. E-Trikes excel at comfortable cruising, not uphill sprints. And when you're designed to carry passengers, simply finishing this hill climb is a positive sign, especially since this thing has the distinction of being the heaviest ride to go up hellhole. The 630 Rickshaw is a precious cargo carrying cruiser at its heart, and that's exactly what it delivered on this test. All right, one final ride with me outside, and I'm gonna show you guys how the 630 Rickshaw rides and feels. All right, we're out here on the 630 Rickshaw. And if you haven't already noticed, but I'm guessing you have, this is a really unique bike. It's not every day you get a bike that not only can fit one extra passenger, but multiple with this rear bench seat behind me. But fortunately, not much changes as far as riding position goes. It still has the same style of cruiser riding position where your body position is upright, you've got a nice wide field of view on the path in front of you, and your hands kind of fall into this natural position thanks to these sweatback cruiser style handlebars. As far as adjustability and fit goes, now 630 says this will fit riders between 4'11" and 6'4", and that's a really wide range. But when you factor in the fact that you have an adjustable seat post, a little tilt in the handlebars here, you can kind of dial in a fit that works best for you. Now, I don't have anyone in my office that's 4'11", but at 5'11", I definitely feel like this bike has plenty of room to go in either direction for fitment. And one of the cool features on 630's website is you can go there, go to rider fit within the product page of this Rickshaw, and you can select the drop down of multiple riders ranging in almost all heights within 4'11" all the way up to 6'4", and you can see real people at those heights on this bike. And I think that's a really unique thing that not a lot of other brands are doing, so kudos to Rickshaw, or excuse me, 630 on that. So the bike does have suspension. Up front, you've got a steel coil suspension fork with a lockout option, and then the seat post is actually a suspension seat post. And that is always nice to see, especially on a bike that has a lot of rider body weight sitting back on this seat post, kind of in this upright position like I am. Having a suspension seat post and a front fork, suspension fork really does kind of help make this even more comfortable to ride. The tires below, it's a bit of a, dare I say, mullet design. Those of my friends that are mountain bikers will recognize that term, but if you're not familiar with what that means is you have a larger tire in the front and smaller tires in the rear. And in the case of the Rickshaw, up front you've got a 24" by 4" tire with a street pattern on it, and in the rear you have a 20" by 4" tires, two tires, excuse me, and that makes for a pretty solid handling ride. The tires are quiet on the road, they feel good, no complaints there. Now the motor's a Bafang 750 watt motor with a cadence sensor that feels pretty solid. Motor doesn't make a lot of noise, but it's not quiet either. So it's kind of middle of the road, pretty typical of a e-bike at this price point. But I'm gonna stop here and then let's activate the motor and see what kind of response we get from the cadence sensor. So I'm gonna start now. Right there. So literally from the top of my pedal stroke to the bottom, so a half of a full turn, and we are off and running with the cadence sensor. So pretty solid, pretty, I'd say that's a pretty expected result. Sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're slower. This is right in the middle of the road. All in all, I've really enjoyed the time on this bike. It's a very unique bike that opens up a lot of opportunities to take kids and take pets and just kind of have some fun with a trike. So let's head back in, wrap this up, and that's it for this section. Okay, so some things I missed outside. There's also an integrated cargo box below the passenger seat here. It's a nice feature for securing your backpacks, snacks, or blankets for a day out. And the other thing I didn't mention about that cargo box is that it's actually not lockable. And while that's not a huge deal, we'd like to have the ability to lock the storage area if you need to park your bike and step away. Although at second glance, you could in theory just use a cable lock through the holes in the bike's frame, so maybe it's not an issue. Also, I don't know if you could hear it, but there are some rattles here and there, and when you start riding the rickshaw at higher speeds, they get a little bit louder. Largely it's due to two specific areas. First, the seat belts, when not in use, just sit on the bench and rattle. I found myself securing them around the armrest to reduce it. And now the other area of noise comes from what we think is just thin metal being used to secure accessories like the front and rear fenders, as well as the chain guard. While we do find those features practical and helpful, maybe in the future just use a slightly larger diameter metal for securing it in place, as they not only make noise, but any bump at all and they bend out of place and start rubbing the chain or the fenders, rub the tires. It's just easy to bend back and not a huge issue, but it's an area for improvement. All right, friends, we've covered a lot here with the Sixthreezero Rickshaw. So what does it all mean for you, the potential proud new owner? Well, overall, it's a really cool E-Trike that opens a ton of possibilities thanks to its unique passenger seating, onboard storage, and that massive 500-pound payload capacity. From giving the kids a fun ride to school and even having storage to space for their backpacks and helmets, to starting up your own business, you could run it as a pedicab service downtown. Big companies could use it in giant warehouses to move inventory where forklifts might be overkill, or who knows what else you guys will come up with. Bottom line, yeah, the possibilities are pretty big. Sure, there's areas for improvement, things like throttling taking us past 20 miles an hour, or the braking department beefing up those brakes to account for a quicker stop, especially under a heavier payload. But overall, this is a fun new take on E-Trikes that we are pumped to see where it takes its new owners and see all the fun ways you guys will be using it. So tag us in your Sixthreezero Rickshaw adventures. And if you haven't already, do me a solid, like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe for more reviews, and until next time, we'll see you guys out on the trail.